Hey everybody, we're here with Divine Purpose Podcast. This is Eddy Dacius. We have a great guest. We have a CEO today, Adam Coffey. And so one thing we always do, so on our podcast, we always have the guest to introduce themselves, but we're gonna do it today too. Army veteran, engineer, pilot, spent 21 years as a CEO of three national companies, selling best-selling book, 15 years guest speaker at a top business school. Those are my words, but I think we're gonna have Adam tell us more about him. Before we do, let's shout out to our sponsor. We have It if you want to look great and lose some weight, and I know the summer is coming, so let's go with It. They will definitely help you get better.
Now is the time to hop into the hottest 45-minute group fitness class around. Give us a try absolutely free with our free 3-day pass. Get a great workout and have fun at the same time. Whether an athlete or someone looking to shed a few pounds, hit core workouts keep you motivated and part of an awesome community, all in under 45 minutes. See you at the gym.
Call them if you're trying to look to lose weight, and if you want to look great for the summer, or you look great for yourself, because that's gonna be great for you. So we have another sponsor. That's his facility management. If you're looking for facility management, you should call 617-237-0106. That's his facility management.
Do you want to maximize the value of your commercial property and achieve optimal productivity and efficiency in your day-to-day business operations? That's where Dacius Facilities Management can help. DFM offers Boston area businesses help in key areas like building and preventive maintenance, handyman services, project and vendor management, and even security consulting at competitive rates. Call Dacius Facilities Management now at 617-237-0106 or visit daciusfm.com today.
Like promised, we have Adam with us today. Adam, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. Hello to all your listeners out there. I'm pumped, man. I after watching your commercials here, it's like I'm ready to go to the gym. You know, I'm a guy who lost 30 pounds for the last about 6 months, so I'm very much tuned into that message. And hey, who doesn't need good facilities management? So, hey, everybody out there, how you doing? Good to be here.
All right, like promised. So we have a famous question. Famous question for us or to start the show is, what can you tell us about you today?
What can I tell you about me? Boy, I've done it all. I started my career right out of high school as a private in the United States Army. I looked up, I saw bubble gum on the bottom of somebody else's shoe. That's how low I started. And then from the military, which taught me something about discipline, teamwork, and leadership, I then went on to a career in engineering. Engineering made me a meticulous planner. That led me to General Electric, GE, back in I call it the Camelot era, back when Jack Welch was at the helm. GE is the world's most admired company. Tech hasn't started yet. Every 2.5 years, the world's largest company, stock is doubling. You know, it was a great magical time to learn how to run a business. And then I spent 21 years as a CEO and built 3 big national companies. I bought 58 companies, and putting them together, billions of dollars in exits.
Wow.
Loved teaching, didn't make any money, was making a lot of money as a CEO, but I really wanted to kind of try to switch my life around. And so about 18 months ago, I actually left the CEO world and I said, I've hung up my cleats. Not going to be a CEO anymore. I'm going to help multiple companies at a time. Started a consulting business, and I'm now working with 60 different companies.
Wow.
And having fun. So thank you for all the wisdom that I've gained over the years and all the many blessings. But now I'm working with entrepreneurs and small business owners. I'm helping them build their empires. I'm helping them monetize them and exit and sell them, and having a lot of fun.
And great to hear, because those are the things we excited to hear from our guests. So let's go on your favorite childhood memory. We're gonna go on you growing up. I know you just mentioned how you started, but can you share with us your favorite childhood memory? How was your household dynamic?
I grew up in a neighborhood with thousands of kids, it seemed like. So, old Irish Roman Catholic family. We had 6 kids in our family. We were like the Brady Bunch. I was Bobby, so youngest boy, and I had 4 first cousins that lived with us too. Their parents had passed away, unfortunately. So there were 10 kids in my neighborhood or in my house, but we weren't the largest family on the block. Boy, there was a family next door that
Wow.
had 14 kids. So you're talking about a time in life when there's no internet, there's no video games yet. There's like 5
Wow.
channels on TV. So everybody would get up in the morning in summer and be like, let's go play sports, and so we it's just like you had like all these kids, and we would get fed by different families, and it's like you would see mom and dad and like if you're lucky, like once a day before bed. And so I tell people I was raised by the neighborhood. This was a neighborhood dynamic back in the late 60s through mid 70s, where everybody on the block served in World War II or in Korea. A bunch of American flags up the flagpoles, just kind of a magical time. I lived in a suburb of Detroit, and it was a great place to grow up and to kind of learn about life, and raised by the neighborhood. So I think my most fondest memories, but even then I had a real strong work ethic. I mean, as a kid, my first real job, I had a paper route when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that today, but back then 12-year-old kids on their bikes delivered the papers. Right. And I would rake leaves in the fall. I'd shovel snow in the winter and cut grass in the summer. So like I was an enterprising young person, and had started developing my work ethic and business ethic back then. So that's kind of my favorite childhood memories, just growing up in a nice little suburban Detroit neighborhood with a bunch of other kids, and it was a kind of a magical time. Leave it to Beaver time, call it.
So let's hear this from you. What was your dream job in high school, college, and now? Because the reason we like to ask this question is to kind of allow our guests to go back to their past, and then looking at things, or like how you were, and then how things change or life take you to different direction, opportunities.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I grew up a jock. My primary sport was hockey. I lived in the Detroit metro area. A lot of the Red Wing players lived in my neighborhood, and so I grew up playing hockey with a lot of professional hockey players, kids. The Hows lived close by. And a guy named Terry Harper. There's a famous goalie named Eddy Dacius. And later in his career, after he was done with the Rangers, I did a stint in Detroit, and he was kind of my goalie coach. I was a goalie as a little kid growing up. So, in my life, it's really funny, but I was a pitcher in baseball, point guard in basketball, goalie in hockey. The only sport I didn't play was football. I was a midfielder in soccer. It was the first soccer
Oh my God.
that came out. So I was a sports nut, and I always wished and thought, I want to see my name on the back of a Red Wing jersey. So here's what's funny. A Hall of Fame hockey player named Coffey. He later in his career, after the Edmonton Oilers and winning a bunch of Stanley Cups with Wayne Gretzky, he rolls through Detroit. Sure enough, there's my name on the back of a Red Wing. And I looked up and I was like, well, thank you, Lord, but that's not exactly what I had in mind. So I thought I was going to be a professional athlete. And I didn't make it, call it. So went in the service out of high school. And, if you would have told me I was going to become the CEO of a medical service company or a commercial, I was going to run $1 billion commercial laundry company.
Wow.
In North America, or the country's largest specialty refrigeration service company, I would have just said, not a chance. Not a chance. I'm going to be a goalie. I'll be a pitcher. I'm going to be a sports sports dude, not a business guy. So funny how life works. And, I was a really, really good engineer. And it was a little scary, I think, early in my career too, to put away my engineering background and take on, call it the Harvard MBAs of the world, in the Fortune 500 world, and cross over into management and business. But I did. I was hitting the glass ceiling as an engineer in my early 20s. I'll never forget, at the time I was living in California and I bought a house. I'm 21 years old. I look like I'm 12. I'm 12. I'm cutting the grass. My neighbor's like, hello, is your dad home? And I'm like, no, my dad lives in Michigan. Well, who owns the house? Oh, I do. You're like,
wow.
Really? Yeah. So it was a fun time, but I thought I'd be an athlete, and never, even in the military, I was an electronics guy. I was working on classified air defense radar and missile systems. And that led me into engineering at GE, and I'm working on CAD scanners and MRIs and designing and putting them in trailers, freight trailers, doing all kinds of stuff. But I never thought I'd be a CEO. Never thought I would. I thought I'd live a normal life, call it. And I've been blessed, and I was fortunate to work my way up. I've held every job a person can hold on an org chart in a company.
Wow.
From truck driver to CEO.
Jeez, no, that's great to hear, and because we have our topic, which is the segment where we're gonna dive deep into this type of question. So, is there one thing you wish you knew before you started your career, or before you become a CEO?
I wish. Yeah, there's a lot of lessons I learned along the way. I've written some books, and I kind of put my career CEO cliff notes in my books, and I teach seminars today. And I wish I'd have had me when I was in my 20s to teach me some lessons in life. Let me give you one lesson. First off, I think the world is waking up to this fact today, but in my early years, I learned that if you're going to be an executive in a service company, you can't store service in a product. Your product is people. Culture matters. How you treat people matters. And as a guy who held every job going up through the ranks, organizationally, I'm a person who's known for building really strong cultures. So as a CEO, I don't manage revenue. I start with strong culture. If I take care of people, people get engaged. When they're engaged, they work hard. When they work hard, they take care of customers. Customers give us more stuff, and revenue just rains from the sky. So I'm known for building strong cultures. I'm known for taking care of people. I've learned the lesson that profit and culture are not mutually exclusive. You can have a great culture. You can take care of employees. You can be genuine and authentic about that, and you can make a lot of money for shareholders.
Wow, well said. So let's go with this question. Which of your accomplishments you're the proudest?
Well, that's a pretty good question. There's a lot of boxes I've checked. I'm proud of them all. As a young soldier, I was Soldier of the Year for the United States Army in 1984. Ronald Reagan's president. This is a long time ago. I was proud of that. I was proud to get my pilot's license, to become a pilot. I was proud, to be a CEO. I was proud to be a #1 best-selling author. The way I look at it is, it's not what am I most proud of behind me. It's what mountain am I going to climb in front of me? Because I'm going to tell you, my best accomplishment hasn't been achieved yet. I don't know what that is, but
okay.
talk to me in 10 years, and we'll come back and revisit that question. I would hate to think that my best in life is behind me. Proud of a lot of things. Proud of being a dad. Proud of being a
definitely,
husband, and things like that too. So I'm going to say the best is yet to come.
So let's go in another direction where we're talking about some challenges, and you can take it from anywhere, all the job you had. Can you share 3 challenging events in your life, and how did they challenge you?
I was a CEO when planes flew into buildings. I was a CEO during the Great Recession.
Wow.
I was a CEO during the pandemic. And so I would tell you, if I think about my professional life and I think about the curveballs that life circumstances can throw at you when you're running a business, I think it's, and I would even say that in today's world, it seems like these events are happening with greater frequency. I mean, in 2020, we had the pandemic. In 2021, we had supply chain issues, and the pandemic didn't go away. It just kept kind of lingering around. And then in 2022, we've been dealing with inflation. And during all of that, we've had all kinds of just racial strife and problems, call it the bedrock of our country. And I think all of these challenges, when you're a CEO with thousands of employees, these are real challenges. And so what I learned, I think, through all of these different lessons was, first of all, how not to react with any kind of,
emotions. Okay.
Yeah. Check emotions aside. The people looking up are looking up, and they've got many different backgrounds, many different walks of life, and they're representative of society at large. And as a CEO, I'm responsible for all of them. And so how I react to world events or things that are going on is going to be seen. It's going to be felt. So I want to learn how to listen and to kind of absorb what's going on and kind of be that voice of calm and reason, and not the voice of polarization or action. So, I would say that you learn how to, I guess it's maturity, right? As you get older, you learn maturity, and you learn how not to be so reactive and aggressive, and you start to chill out a little bit more. So
on that note, what's the best compliment you ever gotten?
So I think the best compliments we can ever get in life are the ones that we don't ask for. If I think about my business today and the fact that since I've started my business, I've never lost a client. I have a 98% retention rate. I have lost 2% of my clients.
Okay.
And that's because I helped them sell their businesses. They got wheelbarrows full of gold, and they ran off into the sunset. And so I had to go find some new clients. But, so I think the biggest compliment that a person can get are the ones that we don't seek, the ones that we don't ask for. So I'm very mindful that, I am blessed, and it's incumbent on me to give back. But I do that quietly. I don't do that visibly. So I don't want to be the philanthropist of the year or known for doing things. I do it in quiet, and I try to be engaged. I try to give back to the communities in which I've lived or prospered. And I think the best compliments I get are seeing the results of call it my activities that I don't generally talk about.
This is interesting because, like you said, most people, they're looking for that visibility. They're looking that validation from newspapers or their name out there. So why you want things like that to be hidden? Why you're not?
So I've had some of those accolades too. When I was living in California in Orange County, I was named to the top 50 most influential people, in Orange County list. And, year after year, I'm there with Kobe Bryant. I mean, there's some big names and big people there, and I'm on that list, so I got those accolades, but, I'm mindful that to whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah.
And I this is the Divine Podcast, so I don't mind talking about this. And, I'm very mindful that it's incumbent on me to give back. Mindful of another passage from Scripture just about how hard it is for a rich man, to find their way to heaven. And, and so I'm very mindful that I've been blessed. Thank you. I give back. I do it in quiet because I don't care what people think around me. There's only one person I care about, who sees my actions, and that's God.
And that's great too. And thank you to share this, because most people, they kind of reserve. And like I said, Divine Purpose is just a global welcoming podcast where that's my faith personally. But when we have the guests, they are welcome to take us on any journey they want in terms of like sharing it. So let's go with
often people just along those lines.
Yeah.
I've been asked multiple times on interviews, if you could sit down and have a conversation with anybody that ever lived, who would that person be? And I don't have to think twice. It would be, I'd love to sit down with Jesus. There is nobody on this planet who disputes that he lived. Doesn't matter whether you're Jewish faith, Christian faith. Everyone acknowledges this person lived. Everyone acknowledges, the argument that we've been talking about for thousands of years. Who was he? And so no other human being in the history of human beings has made a bigger impact on the planet for thousands of years than Jesus. Yeah. So that's who I would love to sit down and talk to.
That's really interesting, because we had a guest and we usually ask that question: if you had a chance to be with somebody, would that be? And she said, I would like to ask Jesus some questions. So let's go. You being a pilot, and what was this journey look like, and what kind of get you to that path?
So I had an opportunity to fly an airplane for the first time when I was a teenager. My uncle owned a farm in Vermont, and during World War II, he worked on Tinian Island. He was an engineer for Pratt Whitney. If I remember the story correctly, I may have the companies wrong, but he worked on the Enola Gay on the engines to get the plane off the ground. And after the war, he worked for the FAA, and he had a 1937 Piper J3 Cub. And so I spent some time in Vermont one summer, and he had a farm, and he had an airstrip, and he had his airplane, and he taught me. He flew it for work and would go around to the different cities he had to go. And he taught me how to fly as like a 12-year-old. So I had the bug early to want to be a pilot. And I was not a pilot in the military. That picture up there is me flying a World War II P-51.
Wow.
And I've got a lot of logbook time and a lot of pretty exotic airplanes. And so I've been blessed to be able to kind of trace the footsteps of what a World War II fighter pilot went through. First, they learned how to fly the PT-17 Stearman biplane. So I learned how to fly that. Then they learned how to fly the AT-6 Texan. I learned how to fly that. And then they went on to fighters or bombers, and I've flown all of those too. So for me, it was about experiences, but it was one of those things in life where I wanted to do it. I was committed to doing it. And once I did it, I went on to own 3 airplanes over the years. I don't own one right now. When I moved from California to Texas, I sold my plane in California. And I tell my wife I threatened to buy another airplane at some point, but it's kind of like check the box. I loved, enjoyed it. It's a part of me. I'm, I give money regularly to some of the big pilot associations that I still belong to, but it was just one of those things in life. It was a calling. It's like, it's one of those boxes I need to check in my life. And I'm fortunate that I got to do it.
And this is amazing so far, and I'm very excited. Like I said, we have Adam Coffey with us today. This is Eddy Dacius on Divine Purpose Podcast. Let's go with this question. We're talking about transferable skills, right? Things you learn from doing, like, let's go over the list again. Army veteran, engineer, pilot, right? And then CEO. Can you take some skills you transfer from one another and kind of get you to be better at your job?
Yes, absolutely. Let's start with sports, because as a young person, I was very much into sports. Sports makes us competitive.
Yeah.
It teaches us to never quit. It teaches us in a team sport how to play with others, and to really get focused on the prize, and so practicing and applying yourself and pushing yourself to achieve is something that athletics teaches. Take that into the military. And the military taught me how to be a servant leader. So the military has been cranking out servant leaders for 250 years here. Only about 10 years ago, we came up with a title in the business world for that. And we called it servant leadership. But that's really what it was about. It was like, hey, follow me, take the hill, and taking care of others and becoming part of a collective, a unit where you would risk your life to help another human being, and you would put it on the line. And they talk about the brotherhood, and I don't mean that in a sexist way, just the brotherhood, the camaraderie between soldiers, people who have served together. There's nothing that approaches that. Probably professional sports and athletes who've won a championship together, or people who've been through adversity together. But the bond between people and soldiers, and you learn how to be a servant leader and care about other people, and regardless of your faith or your background or your skin color, it's like in the Army, we're all green. And you know what? If you're on a battlefield and you're injured, I'm not looking up at that corpsman to find out, or a medic to see, well, what color are they? What religion are they? Where'd they come from? Do I like them or not? They're the helicopter pilot who's flying me out of a combat zone. You're not thinking, it's like you learn that we're all equal. That we all add value. So, I mean, those skills were great. Engineering with that meticulous planning. Hey, you can't do step 52 until you've done step 1 through 51. And in today's world, especially, there's a whole generation of people who just, I think, struggle to want to work hard. And it's like, you know what? I grew up in you don't get to be a CEO by waking up one day and becoming a CEO. It's like, you got to put in the time. You got to learn, you got to climb the ladder, you've got to work hard, and there are no participation ribbons in life. You get knocked down, you get back up,
you work hard, keep going.
You fail, you try again. We always learn in life. Our biggest successes and our biggest failures are all opportunities to learn. And those are the character building moments that help us succeed. So I would say I'm here today because that young boy was an athlete, because the young soldier learned how to care about others, because the engineer learned how to be a meticulous planner, because GE taught me how to run a business. It prepared me to become a CEO. Those experiences led me to my becoming an author and wanting to give back and writing my books. And so all of this experience that we pick up in life, it builds upon, all of these experiences are added up, and they create the collective person that we ultimately become.
Oh, terrific. So we close to our break, and one thing I would say is this is like listening to what you're saying is very. I relate to it because at the end of the day, anything you learn is an opportunity, even you fail. But is there one thing if you had a chance to do like differently, you probably will do it differently? I don't know which title you had where you realize that there was an opportunity. Yes, you learn it, but if you had a chance to redo it, you will do it differently.
Yeah, if I look back at my entire life, and I said, I've had a lot of accomplishments, but I had one failure too. I think my biggest failure in life was the failure of my first marriage, and and learning, call it as you're climbing the corporate ladder, I tell my elder kids from my first marriage, it's like I was a crappy dad. As a young person, I was driven to succeed. I was chasing title and money, and I'm climbing the corporate ladder. And I learned the very important lesson somewhere along the way that family is the most important thing, and that there has to be a work-life balance. And so I'm a dad again. I have a 10-year-old, and so I'm doing it call it the second time around. And I have a great relationship with my elder kids, but I'd say, that was one lesson. I think my parents, goes back to my parents. They were Depression era minded folks. They grew up during the Great Depression, during World War II, during the Korean War. I mean, talk about just turmoil on the planet. Everything was rationed like their whole childhood. And so for my dad, it was always about, hey, it's title, it's money. It's not debt. It's not big hat, no cattle. It's this is how I keep score. And he had so many kids. If one lost, it was like, okay, I got 5 more. I got 9 more. It's like, So, I mean, family was important to him. Certainly was, absolutely. But somewhere I missed that lesson. And it's like I was chasing title, chasing money. And I learned the painful lesson along the way that, hey, family's more important than job. Family's more important than money. Has to be balanced. And, you have to be authentic, not just at work, but also at home.
Oh, yes, definitely wonderful. We're going on our break now. This is Eddy Dacius with Divine Purpose and our special guest, the CEO, Adam Coffey. Yes, we're back with Divine Purpose Podcast. We have Adam Coffey today, and he started to tell us something, because we usually go to hot topic. This is where it's a fun segment where we definitely go deep into our conversation. But before we get to hot topic, let me ask you one more question. So you mentioned that family is the most important, and I agree with you. But in terms of what kept you going as a young CEO, because at the end of the day we have challenges, but what was your motivator to kind of keep going and help your business get to the best opportunities?
I think for me, success in business and building, call it $1 billion business, that was kind of the drive, right? So young athletes, you want to win a championship. Well, in business, what's the championship? It's grow bigger, it's get bigger. And then building these cool company cultures. I mean, the companies that I ran weren't very sexy, right? So I ran a giant commercial laundry company. Well, there's nobody on the planet that even enjoys doing laundry at all. So how can you be passionate about laundry? And I would tell people, I'm not passionate about laundry. I'm passionate about the journey. I'm passionate about building the business, about building a strong culture that gives back to employees and seeing them grow and succeed in their own careers. All of that was special to me. And I think that's what kept driving me. There wasn't an end state I was necessarily looking for. It was, how can I maximize the potential of this business? How can I grow? How can I get bigger? How can I build a great culture that's sustaining? And, I've done some pretty cool things in my career. During COVID, when COVID first hit, my private equity sponsor was Aries Management. They were a great steward to employees in all their companies. We started a foundation. And the purpose of the foundation was to give back to employees who were impacted negatively by COVID. So death of a loved one, they got sick. We were taking care of people. That then got a chance to expand to people who suffered from a natural disaster. And then it went on to just someone who had a death in the family or an emergency or some kind of thing. And so we were always trying to find creative ways to build a great culture as the company was growing, find ways to give back to people who were working hard. And so that's what drove me. It was kind of the journey itself, no destination in mind, constantly trying to reinvent who I was and who the company was.
We had a CEO from Flipper early this year, But let me ask you this question as a CEO. What was the process? What's the interview process for a CEO?
To be hired as a
Yeah,
CEO?
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when I was faced with my first chance to become a CEO. So I'm at General Electric. I'm an up and coming executive. I'm doing well. And someone, recruiter phone rings, yeah, hello, no, I'm not looking, eventually they get me on and I start talking to people about the job. And, I'm going to my own GE mentorship team. And I'm asking them, what do you think? And it's like, do I stay at GE where I'm one of 400,000 people? I'm one of 1,000 of this or 1,000 of that. And do I stay or do I go? And the best advice I ever got from somebody was, hey, Adam, once a president, always a president, take the job. GE will never see you as a president until you go be one someplace else. And that's really kind of how it worked because, at that time, Jack was retiring. A bunch of GE leaders were leaving to go run other companies. And, then my phone's ringing off the hook. It's like, hey, I'm starting a service division at this company. Why don't you come run it? And that's like the opportunity started crescendoing after that. But in terms of the actual interviewing process, I think every time I've been interviewing as a CEO, people wanted to understand it wasn't just about what's your education, what's your background, or what have you accomplished. It's like, how are you going to immerse into this company? What does the first 90 days look like? How do you think about growth, culture, and balancing all of these different things? And, I would come with a plan. It's like, it's not just an interview with here's my resume and I did this and I did that. It's like, hey, listen, this is how I immerse in a company. Let me give you some examples. Here's how I think about metrics and KPIs and bending the growth curve. I was a guy who was a turnaround specialist. They'd always give me broken business units and I'd fix them. And I'm like, this is how I attack. This is what I do. Here are examples, of me being a turnaround guy in other businesses, other business units, and then of course, once you've been a CEO, then it's like, well, here's what I did at that company. And here's what I did, at that company. And, here's what I'll do for you. And so there's no right or wrong, but I think in today's world, if you're blessed to be in that interview, it's not about you and your accomplishments. It's about you and your accomplishments got you the interview.
Yeah.
Right. That got you in the room. You want to go home, and land the job. Now it's like, how are you going to help me? I'm the board. I'm the chairman.
Yeah.
I've got an issue. I've got a problem. We're hiring a new president, a new CEO. It's like, what are you going to do? It's like, you got in the room because of all that. Don't care about all that. How are you going to attack this? What's the plan from here forward? You better have that plan. And I had that plan. And I always had that plan. If I went on camera for 20 seconds, I could come back here with two or the original strategic plans from the 3 companies that I ran. It's like, this is how I do it. These are the systems I bring to bear. And it's like, you better be able to articulate how that company's going to find its success. Because if all you got is regurgitating what got you in the room, you're not getting that job.
You're not getting it. Wow. No. So I think that's a great intensive to kind of get to hot topic, because I feel like you're on fire to speak more about this subject, right?
Yeah, I'm always ready.
No, definitely. Let's go with hot topic now. So hot topic is a segment where we talk about questions or ask you questions related to your career. So you said being a CEO, yes, your accolade, your experience will definitely gonna get you the call, right? But when you're in the room, it's all about closing the deal. So what was your process to prepare for that interview?
So for me, it was let's start by doing some research, so it's not like I'm going into an interview and I don't know who the company is. I don't know what the leadership team is. I've done my research. I've asked questions, along the way, because there'll be multiple interviews. You don't go to one interview and you're hired as a CEO. There's going to be multiple. Someone's going to screen. Can the guy, can he stand up? Can he talk? Is he for real? And so you're getting through all these screening interviews, and I'm not just telling them what they need to know. I'm also learning from them. I'm doing the research. And so when I'm in that room as a CEO for that, call it that final interview, that last interview where it's a go, no go kind of decision, I've done my homework, and I just like that athlete, who goes to spring training and practices and is committed, and Seth Curry shooting 3,000 3-pointers in the backyard before he goes to the gym. It's like you've done the work, you have done the research, and I come with the plan. This is exactly what I'm going to do over the next 90 days. This is how I'm going to immerse. This is the methodology that I use. These are the systems, the management systems that I use. This is an example from my previous company of how I came in, bent the curve. Here's example of the kind of metrics I used. Here is, and so it's all about, you walk into the interview and you own the room. You know what they need to do. You've already done all of that. And you've already now shown them that you are the CEO of this company. And it's like, how can you not hire me?
So let's talk, and great insight, great tip, Adam. So let's talk about self-made CEO, because that's where I was going to, because I know there's a lot of process, even for a big opportunity. Being an executive, you get a lot of interviews. So can you tell us anything about self-made CEO? Or
yes,
is it valid?
I called myself a blue-collar CEO.
Okay.
Because I held every job a person could hold in a company. And I started as a private in the Army at the lowest form of life. And I worked my way up an org chart. And so I was, I have the experience of being the guy in the truck or the first line supervisor or a manager or vice president. And so I had all those experiences to draw upon, and I think those experiences grounded me to not be a head case, to not be full of myself, or arrogant or egotistical. There's a fine line between arrogance and confidence. And I think as a CEO, you have to have confidence in your abilities. But the reality is, hey, I care about people. I really do. I've always cared about people. It's like, if I see and I can build an environment where people are successful, then I'm going to be, I call myself a lazy workaholic. So let me explain that for a minute. It's like, if I do my job right, I hire great people, I articulate a vision, I empower them, to run, and I hold them accountable. But if I hire a great team of people, there's nothing for me to do.
Yeah.
And so it's learning how to not be the smartest guy in the room, learning how to hire, the smartest guy in the room. And it's like, and not groupthink. I need diversity of thought. I need diversity of experience. It's not just about race. It's about just life experiences that brought us together. And it's like, I don't want people that just say yes sir, and think like I do. I need those diverse opinions. And so the diversity gives us, call it a strength. It's how you build a championship team, in sports. You got a great point guard, you got a good center, it's like you got the pieces to the team. And so it's about assembling that team of people, articulating the vision, empowering them, and getting out of the way, standing back and letting them run with the ball and executing, holding them accountable. So for me, I also call this, it's interesting in life, I use orchestras as the example. In an orchestra, there are sections.
Yes.
In each section, there are literally chairs. And if you're the best player in a section, you're the first chair player in an orchestra. When you're an entrepreneur and you're building a business, you're anal retentive control freak. And that's what makes you successful getting out of the gates. You're the first chair player in every section of the orchestra. But if you want to build $1 billion business, at some point, you hit a glass ceiling called bandwidth, and you have to learn how to become a conductor. And you have to turn your back to the audience, and you have to rely on the first chair players to keep their sections in order. And you have to direct, but they perform. And you have to learn how to go from being, call it the control freak, to being a conductor. And those people who can successfully do that and can conduct the orchestra rather than having to play every instrument in it, those are the people who can then do something really special. Some statistics, there's 33 million small businesses in America. And the Small Business Administration defines a small business as 500 employees or less.
Less, yeah.
They are 99.9% of all companies in America, and they employ half the workforce in the country. So there's only 3,000 companies on the planet that have $1 billion in revenue. But just in our country, there's 33 million small businesses. That's a tough mountain to climb.
Yeah.
And I was wanting to climb that mountain in every company that I built. And you can't do that by being the head case, the control freak. You got to learn how to be a conductor of an orchestra. And to do that, you also need to learn how to inspire people.
Yeah.
I think in my lifetime, if I think of U.S. presidents, it's a very volatile time in our country's history, but I'm going to give you two examples, one Republican, one Democrat, because then I'm safe, right? So 2 presidents in my lifetime who could truly inspire a nation. One was Ronald Reagan from a Republican perspective. One was Barack Obama from a Democratic perspective. You look at those 2 men, you listen to speeches that they gave and how they could just inspire people. I mean, what did Barack Obama sell us? He sold us hope.
Yeah.
What the hell is hope? You can't put hope in a box.
No.
I run service companies. You can't store service in a box either. Take a page out of Barack Obama's playbook. What do I sell? I inspire. People. I sell hope. I sell what we can accomplish together. It's not about laundry. It's not about HVAC. It's about building a great culture, building a company that takes care of people, that gives back to society, that takes care of one another. And we can build this great place to call home. We all have to work somewhere. Let's work somewhere cool. So there's a lot of people, I think, in my life who've inspired me and taught me. And I tried to listen and emulate what I heard and pick up some of those skills along the way. I'd also tell you again, since it's the Divine Podcast, one person early in my career said, Adam, if you want to learn how to be an effective speaker, go to church. Go to Alabama. I was in Alabama at the time. Summertime in Alabama, it's 105 degrees. Go see a Southern Baptist minister preaching the gospel for 3 hours in 100-degree heat, waving this 50-pound sword, as he's walking around on stage. And
wow.
Listen and learn how to command an audience. Go to church. And it's so public speaking is always very important from a CEO perspective. And I think people, the one skill you really need to have, you don't have to be the smartest person on the planet to be a successful CEO. You do need to know how to communicate and inspire. And if you can communicate and inspire, the culture will attract talent. You'll get good people coming in the door. You empower them, you inspire them, you get out of the way, you hold them accountable. And that's, I think, the formula for success.
I will kind of challenge you a little bit, and this is great insight. Like I said, we have Adam Coffey, CEO guru, adversary guru, right? The best in the business. I name you now. You're the best in the business, all right? So what I'm saying is, how do you inspire people? Let's kind of go a little bit deeper on it, because it's kind of a broad idea, but can you go deeper or give us some example? How do you inspire people?
So I think about people, their own lives and their own journeys, and if I use 2 people as an example and say, I'm running a company and I've got a lot of people in trucks who are driving around and they're doing service, whatever kind of service it is. In my case, may have been an HVAC service tech, or it may have been a commercial laundry service tech, or it might have been a medical service tech working at hospitals and fixing CAT scanners. But these are people who have their own lives, their own journeys. And for me, it's like my goal when I start a company or I'm building a company is I want to create a place where employees can spend their entire career in one place. That's right here. To do that, I have to do 4 things. I have to pay a fair wage or I'm going to lose talent. And in today's world, it's hard to get talent. And if we have it, we don't want to lose it. So we have to pay talent fairly. We have to have great benefits because we all get old and fall apart. I look out the eyes of a 20-year-old. There's a 58-year-old Gomer looking back at me. I hurt in places I didn't know existed 20 years ago. And so we have to take care of people from a healthcare perspective. And as a CEO, I always made the same choices that the guy in the truck made, or the lady, made. And it's like, whatever their choices are, those are what my choices are. My family wants good healthcare. By God, they got to have good healthcare. I had to have a good retirement plan because somewhere down the road, as people get older, they need to have some semblance that they could slow down one day, retire, and they'd have enough money there to support them, not just Social Security, but something from the company that they've worked their whole life to save. But even if I did those three things, the one thing that's still missing that would still cause me to lose people is I had to create a path. I had to give them a career path. I had to create opportunity. And a growing company that's profitable is investing, and it's creating jobs, and it's creating opportunity. And so those two people, the one person that's in the truck who says, I want to stay in the truck and I'm going to be in this truck for 30 years. God bless them. They become the journeymen that teach the next generation how to do this job. They wanted to have a voice. They wanted to be heard. They wanted to be talked to. They wanted to be cared about, but they had no ambition to be a CEO someday. They wanted to stay right there. Great. I gave them that path. They had the opportunity. They chose not to take it or pursue it, but I gave it to them. And then that other employee says, geez, I'm in the truck, but I don't like working and being on call on weekends and holidays. I want to be home. I want to watch my kids grow up. I want to become a manager someday. I want to become a vice president someday. I want to become a CEO. And this is the country where you can do that. And I know this because I was that guy in the truck, who decided I want to be a service manager. I want to be a vice president. I want to be a division president or a COO, and I want to be a CEO someday. It's like I got that opportunity by climbing the ladder in companies that gave me that opportunity and investing in people, giving them the education they need. So oftentimes when a person becomes a manager for the first time, they usually were very good at whatever job it was they did that got them the job, but no one taught them how to manage people. And so I would always require that people who became managers in my companies the first time, they have to go do a leadership course. They got to learn how to manage people, and so I was always about, if I can build an environment that truly takes care of people and gives them the chance to run, I would be successful. And so how I inspired people was by articulating the vision of, look, we're going to build $1 billion business. This is going to be special. And I'm going to create opportunities for you for advancement. And I'm going to give you opportunities, to go in whatever path you want to take. And I'm going to be there to help you succeed. And it's limited only by your own goals and objectives, your own desires. And so creating that environment, I would always make early investments in people that were visible so people could see, he's talking the game and I see it. I see the investments being made.
Wow.
This is different. This is not just someone telling me what I want to hear. He's telling me what I want to hear and he's backing it up with actions. And then what do I get? I get engaged employees, and engaged employees work hard and I grow, and I get the growth that results from that because of those engaged employees that I took care of. So that's the math. And in today's world, look, hey, I was kind of a savant back in that, time period when I first became a CEO, because it wasn't always done that.
That's why I call you the best. It wasn't
the highway or the highway. In today's world, hey, this workforce, is tough. If they don't see you're authentic and caring about them, you're done.
They're done.
It's hard enough to get employees to come in the door and work. But if you come in the door and you have a toxic culture, they don't stay very long. And I want to build a company where they bring their friends and they bring their family members. And in all the businesses that I ran, I had examples of multi-generational families working side by side. Dad with son with grandson, 3 generations working side by side. And when you get to that point, you've arrived, you've succeeded.
Woo, that was a lot, Adam. Really like it. And I think this is great for our audience. They will definitely learn more. So we're getting at the end of this great interview with Adam Coffey. Is the CEO Adversary Guru LLC. I know you want to talk about your business. It's your time now.
Hey, listen, I have three primary types of customers, but the ones I love working with the most are small business owners. So I've built really big businesses. And in life, consultants are either people who teach you the theory of how to do something, or they teach you from practical experience. I'm a guy who's built billion-dollar businesses. I've spent a career as a CEO helping others, and I love working with entrepreneurs and smaller businesses and kind of putting my arm proverbially around them and help guiding them to avoid all of those mistakes and potholes that I managed to hit, across my 35-year career in management and 21-year career as a CEO. And so I'm really loving, I work with more than 60 companies today, and I love working with entrepreneurs who are building businesses, they're building empires, and I get to help shape them to thinking about employees and culture the way that I think about it, and then help them execute on their own strategies and take them to the place that they want to go. That's a lot of fun. So if you're looking for somebody to be a coach, to be a mentor, a CEO whisperer, that's what I do now. And I'm having a lot of fun. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Adam Coffey, Coffey is my name, or adamecoffey.com. That's where you'll find me.
All right. Well said. So is there a question you wish I asked you today?
No, I think this was a pretty well-rounded interview. A lot of interviews, if I listen to, I've probably been on 100 plus podcasts. When you listen to them, there's a lot of commonality. This one went in a lot of different directions, covered material and things that I've never talked about before. And so I think you did an excellent job.
Thank you, because we like to hear this. That's our motivation. Last word for you, Adam.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you're still here 57 minutes, 13 seconds in, God bless you. I appreciate you tuning in and listening. Thank you for having me.
All right, this is Eddy Dacius with Divine Purpose Podcast. We have Adam Coffey, he's the CEO, Adversary Guru LLC. Call him if you want to know how to get your business up to the ground and accomplish great things. So like I said, this is Eddy Dacius with Divine Purpose Podcast. This episode is available on all major platforms. If you want to listen to this episode, you can go Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you listen to your podcast. Definitely you're gonna have Divine Purpose Podcast. Adams, thank you. We really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Take care now.